Confidence and wondering why the world has passed him by. Hoping that he's been for more than arguments and failed attempts to fly. We were meant to live for so much more, and we lost ourselves. Somewhere we live inside, somewhere we live inside. We were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? Somewhere we live inside. Dreaming about providence and whether mice or men have second tries. Maybe we've been living with our eyes half open. Maybe we're bent and broken. Oh, we were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? Somewhere we live inside. Somewhere we live inside. We were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? Somewhere we live inside. We want more than this world's got to offer. We want more than this world's got to offer. We want more than the wars of our fathers and everything inside screams for second life. Yeah, we were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? We were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? We were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? We were meant to live. We were meant to live.
We were meant to live for so much more. I wonder how many of us here today have struggled with the idea that there has to be more to this life than we can see. More than just making it through the day. I think most of us have. So a song like the one that we just heard is something that most of us can relate to. And we find ourselves in the melody hoping that there's something more. Some of us might even ask the question, have we lost our way, or did we really ever have it in the first place? But the question that we're really asking, the one that we really want to know the answer to, is this: why are we here? Why are we here? That might be the most asked question in human history. And if you struggle with that question, I'm thankful that you're here today, because there is purpose in and for your life. I'm going to ask you, wherever you are at one of our campuses right now or joining us online, to pray with me. God, many of us have been struggling or have struggled with this question: why are we here? We come from many different places in our journey, but God, you have brought us here in this moment together. So help us hear clearly from you today and for the rest of our days. Amen. Life is complicated. I mean, it is, isn't it? And I don't know about you, but I like things to be uncomplicated and clear. I like answers to come quickly when I need them. We know that's not how life works, though, right? We are some impatient folks. So much so that we've spent lifetimes gathering and creating resources to help us get the answers quickly. Even answers to big questions like, why are we here? You know, if you Google that question, Google will return 4.2 billion resources to you in 0.63 seconds. Now, I'm not embellishing here. Those are real numbers. That is absolutely amazing. Of course, I don't suggest that's the way we figure this out, okay? But I did search the question, and the results are filled with TED Talks and self-help books, motivational quotes, some of the craziest YouTube videos ever made, and yes, even some spiritual practices and explorations. But the majority of them point to one thing: us. The meaning to life is being the best and most productive you. Maximizing your investments, reaching your goals, finding happiness in your family, being who you want to be above everything else. And I'm not saying those things are bad, but they are temporary. They have timelines, and they involve emotion and feelings. And all of those things ebb and flow. They move to suit our moods and situations. So is it any wonder that with a potential 4.2 billion answers to the question that you asked, that it's still hard to find the truth? But look, hang with me here. You don't have to be confused. We don't have to be confused, because the answer isn't out there locked in some blog or article. No. It's actually embedded in the very fiber of your creation. It lives in who you are. God designed it. In fact, I believe this. I believe that we are designed on purpose, with purpose, for a purpose. Now, most of us, when we see this statement, we want to jump right here. For a purpose, okay? And all that data I just shared, that's what it says. We have a bias towards action. So if we can answer the question, what are we made to do, then we can get right to it. The problem is, even if we think we're doing what we're made to do, sometimes it still comes up short. Sometimes we still have those incomplete moments in our life. And I kind of feel like I'm the poster child for this. Since the first day of high school, I was trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. And along the way, I've been a cook and a cadet, a manager, a recruiter, and every job has defined my life. Now look, that's okay. Maybe that's not you. Maybe the thing for you to do is fix things. Not cars or computers or situations. Guys, some of you might be in the kitchen when your wife comes home during the week and she starts unloading about how the kids were loud in the car and the person at work was annoying again and it was a problem again today. The yard looks bad and she hasn't had any time to do anything about it, and you're barely listening to her because you've already fixed it all in your mind. You're already going into action. You're already on the way to talk to the kids. You're already thinking about getting the lawnmower out and getting it started. You're ready to head into work tomorrow even and help her set things straight. You are a fixer. That is what you do. Now, I'm like that when someone throws problems my way. I love to fix things. And if my wife describes how her day went, I'm already thinking, well, what am I going to do? Why? Because I want to fix it. And I want to do something about it. And that's not bad. It really isn't. It's just incomplete. See, we always want to jump to for a purpose. But look, your purpose and discovering your purpose relies on the first two parts of this statement. Designed on purpose with a purpose. So before you get here, we have to do these other two things. They are essential. So if you want to understand purpose, real purpose, we have to start at the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I meant the very beginning, y'all. This is the first verse of the Bible. And look, in all of its intricacy, tied together by the laws of physics and chemistry and biology, which God created, God spoke into being the beauty of this world and breathed life into the plants and the animals and into man and into woman. Everything perfectly timed, dependent and interwoven into the life that He created. Now, most of us would agree, even if you're a scientific thinker, the design of nature itself is absolutely stunning and undeniable. The order of things cannot be by chance. Yet many of us have wondered or struggled with this lingering question of the purpose for our lives. Not just life in general, but our lives. So I want to make this statement today. One that we all need to be reminded of. One that will set the table for our time together. You are not a mistake. You are not a mistake. Your conception, your birth, your life was not the result of chance or luck, good or bad. How do I know? Look at what the Apostle Paul wrote in the New Testament. He said, "For He chose us in Him," this is God, "before the foundation of the world." See, the same God who designed every detail of the universe, took the formlessness of our world and breathed life into it. Before He did that, He knew you. And He chose you. And He did it before the earth was even made. Isn't that amazing? Before He said, "Let there be light," He knew your name. Before He separated the waters above and the clouds and the waters below into the oceans and the streams, He knew what you would look like. Before the first fish swam or the first bird began to sing, He knew what your voice would sound like. You are not a mistake. You are chosen, designed on purpose, with purpose, and for a purpose. I remember in my freshman year of high school, sitting down with my dad and him telling me the story of the first day I was born. It was, the first couple of days of school. My parents were very young, just out of high school when I was born. And they had been in this terrible car accident coming home from a date one night in their senior year. They spent that entire year in the hospital, rehabbing from these horrendous injuries. And they told the doctors along the way that they planned to be married when they graduated. And in response, the doctors shared some grim news. It would be impossible, they said impossible, for them to conceive children. Their bodies had faced immense trauma. So it came as quite a surprise to them when another doctor a year and a half later informed them that the reason my mom was feeling sick all the time was my impending arrival in just under 8 months. My dad called me his miracle. My conception may have been a surprise to my parents, but it never was to God. And regardless of the circumstances that you came into this life, I promise you this: we are designed on purpose, with purpose, for a purpose. You're not a mistake. In fact, if you truly consider how amazingly unique you are, that we all are, this is exciting, then we can truly grasp that with us in mind, while He sat at His divine artist table, that the purpose for all the other things He created, He specifically made with you in mind to sustain life here. Now, there's no real evidence that life exists outside of our planet, not like the one that we're living here. So the architecture of the universe brought into perfect placement the place that we're living. It put Earth right here. And we live and breathe because God meant it to be so. And I wish we could stop right here. I wish we could just take a pause, and wherever you're at your campus, you could go outside and marvel at the creation of God. Or if you were at home, hey, take a look out the window there. Maybe when you leave today, you'll see it differently, but we don't have time for that today. I want to take a moment just to focus, though, on the most complex and wonderful creation God made: you. He made you. Because not only did he design you on purpose, he designed you in the second part with purpose. He designed you with purpose. If you continue to read on in the book of Genesis, it said God made man in his own image. He did it so that we could subdue the earth. He did it so we could multiply and have families and have dominion over the creatures and all of creation. The text even says that God planted a garden and then put the man into it to work. Now that sounds orderly to me. It sounds like purpose. It sounds like with purpose. It sounds exact. It sounds nearly perfect, and it was. Except it didn't stay that way, of course. Adam and Eve made a decision that would separate them from the plan. And as it happened since then, we have wrestled with the question that we are tackling today. We, living in that legacy of separation today, still wonder. But one thing never changed. It's still the same. God wanted us to be part of his family. Now, our time today doesn't allow us the ups and downs of how our family relationship with God as the head of the family has gone throughout history, but know this, God wanted a family, and the amazing truth is he wants you and me to be in it. The entire story of creation, the story of God building a family is the story of our lives. And what purpose does a family have? Well, the purpose of a family is to pass on legacy to us, to help us reflect the goodness of him in this world. John, the disciple of Jesus, said it like this: "See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God." And that is what we are. Who lavished love on us? The same God who knew us before we were born, God our Father. John knew this firsthand. He knew what it meant to be welcomed into the family. He got welcomed in by Jesus himself. And in this verse, you can literally see the enthusiasm. He says, and that is what we are. There's an exclamation point there for a reason. God just moves in crazy ways, but us being in his family is exciting. Paul said it this way in Galatians. He says, "So you are no longer a slave, but God's child. And since you are his child, God has made you also an heir." This included also in a prayer this idea of inheritance. Paul prayed this. He said, "I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people." So what are we? Heirs of the family of God, with the hope of a great inheritance, which includes a place in his family, spending eternity in his presence, and the honor of representing God here on earth, not ourselves. I'm going to let that sink in for a second, because it's excited to be included in a family and to be included in the family of God through Jesus, but it does come with some responsibility, because being an heir means that you carry the family name, the mantle, the purpose. As a child of God, you carry on the legacy of those who believed before you and were welcomed as his children. And being in a family does necessarily bring a sense of duty with it. Therefore, knowing that we're created on purpose, we can accept our inheritance, our place as heirs or members of God's family with purpose. And then we can realize that we are designed on purpose, with purpose, for a purpose. The psalmist said it like this: "The Lord will fulfill his purpose for me. Your steadfast love, O Lord, endures forever." Whose purpose? It says it right here. God's purpose, his purpose, not mine. So it's not my place to make the plan or to dictate the path, to set the goal, because we trust that knowing God, that he will fulfill his purpose for us. In the book of Ephesians, it says it like this. It says, "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so that we can do the good things he planned for us long ago." He was already planning the things that he wanted us to do, for a purpose. And look what Paul says. He says good things, multiple things. He planned them long ago, but we're not off the hook. It's not like God just wants us to sit around under a tree somewhere and say over and over, well, God has this. He has a purpose for me, something that will need to be done, and boom. So at some point in time, I'll know what's going to happen. No, this is where that bias towards action kicks back in. Because we are designed for a purpose. Now we can get to the part that we all wanted to get to in the first place. This is the part that our culture tells us to jump to. The action, the fixer in us. All that's about to get unleashed now. As long as we've done the first two parts, as long as we have explored the fact that we are designed on purpose and with purpose in God's family. If you realize that you were designed on purpose and with purpose, then we get to do what God has made us for. And to figure that out, to figure out what we're made to do, we have to discover our purpose. That's one of our core pieces of our church here, because we all have one. We all have a purpose. We are made to make a contribution to the family that we've been welcomed into. And by design, the reason that you are here specifically has always been there. Prepare for the day that you would accept the assignment to discover what your purpose is. You may not know it, but you are specially gifted. Every person is. You have something inside of you that God planted there in your creation that He has always intended to use. Now, some of those gifts are specifically named in Scripture, but everybody has gifts, and some of them aren't listed there, but they all come from God. In 1 Corinthians, Paul wrote this. It says, there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in every one, it is the same God at work. God is working in us. He's working through us with special gifts that He made specifically for us. And when we grab a hold of those things, when we apply them, then we can put them into motion. Then we can get the action that we're looking for there. And that motion will lead us to playing our specific role in this family. Our church provides you with an amazing opportunity to discover your purpose. We call it Growth Track. And while some of you have signed up for these 3 amazing classes, there are so many who have not taken that chance yet. So before we leave today, we're going to give you access to a number of options through your campus to take advantage of Growth Track. This is so important because it's more than just learning about the church or what we believe here. It is designed to help you discover your specific design. And through that design, you'll find your place. And through that, you'll find your purpose here in God's family. Because we are a body here. Paul called the church a body. This is what he said. Just as the body, though one has many parts, but all of its many parts form one body, so is it with Christ. Who are the parts of the body? You and I. And just like the human body, all the parts are needed for it to work to its fullest potential. And each part has a specific function, a specific purpose. You have a function in this family plan. Paul goes to great lengths to let us know what parts function in certain ways. In fact, it's kind of comical if you read this. He says, not everybody can be an eye, because then you can't hear anything. And if everybody's an ear, then the body can't smell anything, and so on and so forth. But then he sums it up like this. Now, you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is a part of it. Now, when I first came to PCC, I thought my place, my part was kind of right where you are right now. One of our campuses or joining us online. God brought you here. He brought me here out of my brokenness to heal. And that was true. That was true. But as I kept coming and joining in worship here, just like the song said earlier, I realized that there had to be something more than just being here. And I started to recognize that people around me were really excited to be here, and they had smiles on their faces. And I started to have conversations with them because I wanted to know what they were smiling about all the time. And they shared how they felt broken too. And I'm thinking to myself, these folks are broken. They're smiling all the time, but they were excited. excited, and they welcomed me. They served me. They served my family. They served my kids. And for the first time in my life, I realized that they really had something I really wanted. It was a purpose here, not just being here. And it's time for you to discover that purpose too, just like I did. Now, some of you are here today and you're saying to yourself, hey, Bryan, I've already got this figured out. I already know what God has made me for. I'm doing that. And to you, I just want to say, don't get off of this discovery journey. Stay on this discovery journey. It's your job to keep an open mind that the purpose that God has created you for, it will evolve and it will be applied differently at different times in your life. I know this because this has happened to me. One of my gifts is leadership. And I promise you, 10 years ago, I led differently because in that season, my leadership was in business. And it was up to me to make sure my leadership reflected the goodness of God to the best of my ability right there where I was working. And that's true for all of us. And God eventually opened up some experiences for me to lead in as a volunteer here. And then 5 years ago, I started to lead differently because I answered the call to be the pastor at one of our campuses here at PCC. And because I have learned over that 5 years from Bryan and other leaders here, now I'm sharing my leadership with other new next generation leaders here at PCC. See, it all works, so don't get stuck. You may have a gift of administration, but God may use it differently in this season than he has in the past. You may be a gifted teacher, but God may have a new assignment for you in the foreseeable future. You may be gifted at hospitality and it served you well in your job or at work, but it will still be ready and it can still be used in this body, in this family. And God can show you your place and how that gift might support the work that's being done right here in our church. So continue on your discovery and allow God to guide your steps, because discovery leads us to continue to discover how God might use those gifts in the future. If you haven't taken a step to discover your design that will lead you to your purpose, then come be part of Growth Track. Come take a chance. Come do it. You don't have to wait. We're going to have options open almost immediately starting June 1st. And there are options available for every schedule. We want you, God wants you to live life to the fullest. But you never will until you discover the purpose he made you for. Look, if you're feeling rudderless in this season, maybe you've kind of had a direction that you've been going for a long time, but this last 18 months has kind of thrown you off, or you feel like there's some chaos or just getting through the day, or like life is happening to you, it doesn't have to be that way, because you are special to God, made on purpose, with purpose, for a purpose. So I want you to do something for me right now. Let me just check something here real quick. They give me a certain amount of time, but yeah, we got a few minutes here. We got a few minutes. Normally, I'd close the message here, I'd turn it over to the band, or we'd have a special element here, and we'd close the service with a song or something like that. The purpose that we're made for, though, is so very important. I want you to take a few minutes. Don't rush out of the room at the campus you're in, and if you're online with us, just hang out with me for just a few minutes and reflect. We have a few minutes if you're at a campus, so you got to pick your kids up a few minutes before you meet up with friends or go grab lunch or do whatever. If you're at home, the band is just going to play. And if you're at one of our campuses, you're welcome to stay in the room or hang out with us in the chat room there. Discuss this with the folks you are sharing this day with. Reflect on how God might be guiding you. And we're going to make this really easy for you to be part of Growth Track. You can find the list on the homepage or the app, or stop by the information center if you're one of our campuses. There will be a way for you to do that online as well, because your time is the most valuable thing that you have. It's the most valuable commodity you have. Use these next few minutes the best way you can. Take a step towards the full life that God calls you to, because you were meant to live for so much more.
We were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? somewhere we live inside, somewhere we live inside. We were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? Somewhere we live inside, somewhere we live inside. We were meant to live for so much more. Have we lost ourselves? Somewhere we live inside. We hope that you guys will check out our homepage or app to sign up for our online Growth Track session coming up on June 1st. Your host has just put the sign up link in the chat if you're in there right now. And if you're an in-person kind of person, we have several local Growth Tracks coming up at our campuses so you can discover your purpose. You can also find that list on our homepage or app, or stop by the Information Center on your way out to learn more. And if you've already taken Growth Track but you haven't found a place to serve yet, we'd love to have a conversation with you about how you can live out your purpose, because it matters. Invest the time in yourself to find out what God has in store for you. Get into Growth Track, and we'll see you next week.